The two biggest villains in the red sleeve are Princess Hwawan and Deok-ro. But how much of what we see on screen is true? To find out, I scoured the 4 memoirs written by San's mother, Lady Hyegyong, and it turns out she has a lot to say about the pair. And not much of it is nice. So today, I'm going to tell you all the dirt on these two villains, from the point of view of a woman who knew them both in real life. In the red sleeve, Princess Hwawan is depicted as a spoiled, power-hungry daddy's girl, and as it turns out, she was all that and more. She was King Jeongjo's favorite surviving child. When her husband died, he insisted she move into the palace. And from that point on, she wielded nearly unfathomable power. The king trusted her implicitly and followed whatever she said. If she told him a sinner was a saint or a saint a sinner, the king believed it without question. According to Lady Hyegyong, she was an exceedingly jealous person, saying that when the crown prince studied the history of the Sung dynasty, then even that book became the object of her jealousy. She also held a thirst for power. Lady Hyegyong said in all things she alone should have power, that all might be obliged to follow her. Recognizing the threat she posed to the crown prince, Lady Hyegyong warned her son to always remain in her good graces. And at first, it worked. When the crown prince came to live in the palace, the princess acted as a maternal figure. And the crown prince liked her, both because she praised him to King Jeongjo and because she spoiled him with expensive gifts. But she did so with a motive, to win his affection and turn him against his own mother. And for a time, it worked, because Lady Hyegyong wanted him to grow up well. She corrected his behaviors and refused to spoil him. The crown prince knew his mother wouldn't approve of all the gifts, so to avoid being scolded, he began excluding her from his life. At the time, Lady Hyegyong said the princess controlled him like a puppet. Jealous of the crown prince's consort, the princess spread gossip about her, leading to their permanent estrangement. She also sought to drive a wedge between the crown prince and his maternal family, both to increase her own influence over him and out of spite over a perceived slight against her adopted son, Jeong Hu-gyeom. In the red sleeve, her son is depicted as a tragic, obedient figure who is so grateful to his mother, he sacrifices his own life in her stead. But in reality, he was just as bad as the princess. Lady Hyegyong describes him as arrogant, haughty, and reckless. After passing the civil service exam, he became one of Jeongjo's favorites, and he used that influence to dominate government officials, ordering them around as if they were his personal slaves. Princess Hwawan asked Lady Hyegyong's father, Hong Pang-han, to act as his tutor. When Pang-han became worried that Gukyeong was falling in with a bad crowd, he informed the princess, but she didn't want to hear anything against him. Soon, the princess and her son began to resent Pang-han. When the boy turned 20, he sought the position of magistrate of Suwon, where he would command 5,000 cavalry, a huge responsibility for someone so young. When Pang-han refused to endorse him, the princess and her son ruthlessly conspired against him. The princess not only slandered him to the king, but she also enacted a scheme to set him up for ruin. At the time, the crown prince had become friendly with his soon-to-be brother-in-law, something the princess became jealous of. The future brother-in-law was behaving poorly, taking servants to visit courtesans and regaling the crown prince with all of his exploits. When the princess found out, she saw her opening. Feigning concern, she reported the information to Lady Hyegyong, telling her she feared the crown prince would be swayed to frequent brothels, and if the king found out, the crown prince might be executed. Lady Hyegyong wanted to talk to her son immediately, but the princess told her not to. She said if she rushed in, the incident would become a big fuss, and the king would find out. Instead, she suggested that Lady Hyegyong write to her father and ask him, as prime minister, to punish the servants who were involved. Terrified her son might face death, she begged her father to do as Princess Hwawan suggested, threatening to starve herself if he didn't. Hong Pang-han informed the Board of Punishment, who arrested and banished several servants. He also wrote to his grandson, warning him not to be friends with his brother-in-law. The crown prince was angry and embarrassed by the whole ordeal, and though Princess Hwawan engineered the entire incident, she told the crown prince that his mother and grandfather had overreacted and made everything worse because now everybody knew what had happened. This incident turned the crown prince further against his maternal family. The rift between them opened the door for various factions to move in and act against the Hong family, eventually leading to their ruin. Princess Hwawan didn't stop there. To prevent the crown prince from having an heir, she slandered his consort, attempting to get the crown prince to send her away. When his consort's father unexpectedly died and the crown prince was grieving his father-in-law, she callously said to him, "Is it such a big thing that your highness should grieve so? It is as if your highness has assumed the mask of that dead person." Lady Hyegyong retorted, "What words are these? Could it be that you are drunk today? Can't you be more discriminating in what you say? How can you bring one who has just died onto the body of our precious person?" The princess seemed to realize she had gone too far and begged for forgiveness in an extremely over-the-top manner. Eventually, Princess Hwawan paid for her terrible behavior. When the crown prince ascended to the throne, he stripped her of her royal title and privileges, banishing her to Kangwa Island. Later, he showed her some leniency and allowed her to move near the capital. As for Jeong Hu-gyeom, his scheming eventually caught up with him, and he was executed for disloyalty. In the red sleeve, he begs the king to execute him in place of the princess. But historically, there is no reason to believe this was the case. Jeong Hu-gyeom was actively working to undermine Jeongjo, and his own deeds had earned him the death sentence. He wasn't a scapegoat at all. He was a villain in his own right. But the crown prince's best friend, Hong Guk-yeong, was even worse. His real name was Hong Guk-yeong, and while the red sleeve shows his dark side, they actually undersold just how bad he was. The show depicts them as childhood companions, but in actuality, they met in their early 20s. The grand heir grew up in relative isolation. His only companions were servants, tutors, and officials, who talked to him mainly about his studies. It was a boring, lonely life. Enter Hong Guk-yeong, a wild child who spent his days drinking and womanizing. According to Lady Hyegyong, he was beautiful, witty, quick, clever, bold, and ambitious, a man who feared neither heaven or earth. He often told his friends that he would take the world in his hand, and that's exactly what he set out to do. After passing the civil service exam, he began working as a historian for the Office of Royal Decrees, a position that required him to often be in the palace. And San became enamored. After years spent in relative isolation, in walks this charming, vivacious personality with interesting stories and gossip about the outside world. And Kugyong knew exactly how to win the grand heir over. He pretended to be a forthright critic, though all of his criticisms were just disguised fawning. This meant he never offended the grand heir, but also gave the impression that he was a trustworthy man, willing to critique those in power. Soon, Kugyong became the crown prince's only confidant. Lady Hyegyong likened her son's affection to a man being bewitched by a new concubine. People were disturbed by the grand heir's trust in his new friend, and whenever Kugyong heard anything spoken against him, he would lie and tell the grand heir that those people had been defaming him instead. He was vindictive and vengeful, and according to Lady Hyegyong, had killed innumerable people over the tiniest slight against him. When the grand heir became king, he bestowed his friend with unprecedented levels of honors and promotions, and Kugyong behaved as if he himself were royalty. He lived openly with a female physician in his palace quarters and demanded his meals be prepared to the standard of the royal meals. He treated ministers with disdain, reclining on a high daybed and forcing them to bow beneath him. He was even known to insult and scream at the elderly. To cement his position permanently, Kugyong knew he had to act. Colluding with the Queen Dowager, Kugyong convinced her to send out an official missive stating the Queen had a stomach ailment that prevented her from conceiving, something Lady Hyegyong states was patently false. The Queen Dowager then instructed the king to select a consort among the daughters of scholarly official families. Like in the drama, Kugyong suggested his own sister, though she was barely 12 and wouldn't be ready to produce an heir for several years. Their marriage made him a royal affine, or royal relative, a position that ensured he remained in power. Also, like in the Red Sleeve, Kugyong's sister died suddenly, and he suspected the queen. He arrested many of her ladies-in-waiting, interrogating them with torture, trying to force a confession that would incriminate the queen. Though they weren't able to prove any of the claims against her, Lady Hyegyong says they came very close. The Red Sleeve depicts this incident, but it adds its own fictionalized twist. The drama makes it seem like the women were secretly kidnapped and tortured without the king's knowledge. In reality, this was done openly, with the king's permission. But arguably, Kugyong's most treacherous act didn't even make it into the Red Sleeve. With his sister dead, Kugyong needed a new way to secure power. So he came up with a convoluted plan to once again make himself a royal affine. He convinced a bureaucrat to submit a memorial, saying the king needed to seek widely to obtain an heir. Essentially, this meant that the king should stop trying to create his own heir and instead name a royal relative from a different line. This was an outrageous request, as there was no reason to believe the king couldn't produce his own heir. Meanwhile, Kugyong gave the king's nephew, Tom, the title of prince, and made him the posthumously adopted son of his sister, which in a roundabout way made him the adopted son of the king, and Kugyong the maternal uncle to the heir apparent. Though the king didn't officially name Tom as heir, Kugyong proceeded to behave as if he had. He took the boy into his household and made the king's eunuchs escort the child around as if he were already heir apparent. Everyone was too scared of Kugyong to speak out against him, except for Lady Hyegyong, who raged and pleaded with her son, pointing out that his supposed friend was urging him to end his own direct bloodline, when he was fully capable of producing a blood heir. Eventually, the king saw sense and realized Kugyong was a threat to the dynasty. Because of their long friendship, the king was hesitant to kill him, and instead made him resign and retire to his hometown. He died shortly after, Some claimed from despair and drinking, while others speculated poison may have been involved. Unfortunately, the truth of that matter is lost to history. While we have to realize that Lady Hyegyong's descriptions of Kugyong and Princess Hwawan are biased by her own personal opinions, it's fascinating to see how she saw the two, as a pair of villainous figures obsessed with power and driven by their own egos. Even the red sleeve, with all its drama, didn't fully capture the extent of their treachery. After all this historical and political tension, I'm ready to lighten things up. For my next video, I'll be reviewing Welcome to Waikiki, and we'll see if it's earned its reputation as one of the funniest dramas out there. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss it. And if you enjoy stories with power-hungry villains, you might enjoy my book, Beneath the Destiny Stone. Here's a quick sneak peek at the audiobook. Enjoy!
We followed the group through the cluster of houses and onto the path where the tacksman waited. He had the ruddy face and red-rimmed eyes of a man who drank too much, and the belly of a man who sops it all up with bread and gravy. He sat upon a pristine horse with a shiny mane and well-brushed coat. Everything from his knee-high leather boots to the cart he'd brought to collect the villagers' goods reeked of excess. I didn't know the man, didn't know a single thing about him, but I hated him on sight. I hated the smug sneer on his face and the shine to his shoes, and the way he flaunted his wealth in the face of the poor. I hated that his horse showed no ribs when every child here did. But most of all, I hated that he'd stolen the joy from Henry's face.